Sun's out, buns out on this nice summer evening, and I'm getting my ass kicked by plant cum. It's that time of the year. Forgot my antihistamine, so be nice to me. But today I wanted to talk about community and what that means for a generation existing in the digital age. This idea or the concept for this video was given to me by a comment that I had seen on a YouTube video in which a 50-year-old Japanese man who's presumably been in the corporate workforce for a decent portion of his life now is talking about his concerns for the future. He's worried about the future and uncertain how he would be able to proceed. And the comment stated that content like that, I want to refrain from using the word content because I feel like that is a word that has been bastardized by the creative industrial complex, the sort of like monetization of creative endeavors, which I think is antithetical to our existence as human beings. But for lack of a better term, the content of that nature or videos of that kind on YouTube are what the platform was originally made for. I think about the fact that the first video posted on YouTube was, if I'm not mistaken, the YouTube creator or the YouTube creator's relative or friend at the zoo, and a video of him documenting his life just as it were. Not in the modern day understanding of self-vlog style videos that we understand that are really highly produced and executed with much budget and smoke and mirrors behind the camera to make those behind as effortlessly good looking as possible while putting in immense effort, but just capturing the mundanity of life or reflecting the true existence of the average Joe. And that was something that really appealed to me and really had me thinking that it is something that should be discussed and recognized. And I guess I would like to start this by saying community as an idea, community as a structure has existed for us human beings for a while to give us some sort of backbone or support system. Us human beings being social creatures naturally dictated that we sort of organized ourselves in groups that looked out for each other in order to keep us going or to keep us from surviving. Keep us surviving rather. Obviously, caveman brain operations no longer exist in a context where we have society that's developed on bond or social contract, but the instincts that came from that or come from that do not fade away as easily. And so human beings have resorted in making these organized structures in things such as religion, in things such as families, friendships, romantic relationships, and everything in that vein per se. And the relevance of this, I think, is the onslaught of the internet has given the opportunity for these various structures to be amplified in certain regards. So the distribution, for instance, of information for relatives or friends who may have been torn apart by distance in prior years, once, for instance, friends move off to college or university, has now been made ever more accessible and more easier. On top of that, it is easier than ever, rather, to start new relationships with individuals who you have no physical bearing of or no clue of in terms of their lifestyle and their sort of physical identity, with the onslaught of the internet, because it is as simple as a follow, a click, and sharing messages with strangers online. My point in this is, one would think that this would make it much easier for individuals to interact and for individuals to find community, especially if they feel that it is harder for them to carve out their identity or people with like-minded identities in various niches. But such has been the case that we exist in a time where there's a rising loneliness epidemic. We exist in a time where a lot of people are putting off a lot of social endeavors, a lot of real life pursuits, and favor that is online, because being online seemed to have taken precedent over our actual physical material existence, touching grass, as it were. What this has done, rather, has been the transformation. What this has become, rather, is the transformation of what originally existed as third spaces, as there's been a lot of talk about third spaces online, and made that this communal thing that we all share as a global village, which is the internet. Moving from places like libraries and gyms, and these places still remain as third places, but they do not have as much grasp or as much universal pool and understanding as the internet does have now. And while a lot of the people online, as well as in the world and spheres of influence, decry this as one of humanity's great tragedies in the modern era, people being increasingly unable to face their physical reality because of social media's high unrealistic expectations and everything from the sort, I do believe that there are corners of various platforms online that have remained untainted and that have remained to function as a healthy form of third space or community. And I do think about the original culture that surrounded YouTube before every sense of monetization and the content creation training machine became the most dominant way to present yourself on such platforms. I think of the originality that exists in TikTok movements such as the, oh my god, I am forgetting what this is called, but it was a very, very interesting artistic movement that had people developing all these collages and montages of the mundanities of everyday life. Core. I think of moments like that. I think of the very inspiring and very sort of down-to-earth individuals that post their lives without an angle on social media platforms for others who may be in similar positions, to be this frontage of a third space, to be this frontage of community that I believe we so desperately crave. Which leads me to my main sort of point for this video, which is there needs to be more discussion, or there needs to be more talk about the sense of community and solidarity that is to be found in the comment sections of YouTube videos, as well as TikTok videos and Instagram videos. But I think it is distinctly different, because for YouTube videos, I do think that because of the nature of the platform, it being long form, it being a platform that prioritizes, until recently, before the introduction of shorts, prioritizes algorithmic retention that is beyond short 30-second or minute videos, that we have people post more well thought out, more interesting, but also better videos that are better able at capturing the sort of minute details and authenticities and mundanities of everyday life. One of the most prominent ways I can think about this is in the sort of culture that exists around YouTube covers. You get individuals of varying ages, from teenagers from ages 14 to retirees in their ages 55 bonding over their common interest in music, their common interest in the songs that they play, whether that be vocally on piano or on guitar. These are all things that individuals participate because, much like everything else, music is another one of those universal languages that translates and transcends borders and time. The same way the internet as a platform translates borders and time. And so I think it is in the comment sections of YouTube covers, where you see some of the most wholesome interactions that human beings share, some of the most heartwarming moments of solidarity and community. And while the video that I mentioned earlier was not a man posting a cover of a Fleetwood Mac song from when he was in his teenage years, or a kid into shoegaze giving us a heavy Kevin Shields shredathon. Jesus. The common understanding or the common relation of there being a sort of universal, hey, I know what that feels like because you're a human being too and I'm a human being, is something that really resonates. And I do think that platforms such as Twitter capitalized on this. Text-based platforms, I cannot speak for Threads, as I think it is one that still needs to establish itself in its own, or at the very least, all the scandals such as Cambridge Analytica and just the Zuck being the Zuck would not make it as viable, as trustworthy an option as Twitter or X is or was at its prime. Text-based platforms do provide this sort of community. When we talk about all kinds of things such as Black Twitter or hip-hop Twitter, music Twitter, Irish Twitter, and all kinds of communities that exist in these enclaves that manage to exchange cultures in the most beautiful ways, sometimes and a lot of times with a lot of toxicity and hostility, but much often with a sort of understanding of the common human experience regardless of upbringing. It begins to put into context the relevance and the importance of this amazing technology that we do share, that be the internet, that be sort of forums or platforms where we can chat to one another across borders and sort of share these interactions. So what I wish, or what I would call for, is an advocacy for this rise in sort of just raw and authentic emotion conveyed through words no more complicated than the everyday language that you and I speak, to be put on the forefront. I think the fatigue of content, the fatigue of streaming, the fatigue of influencing is something that resonates with everyone. And obviously this feels a bit antithetical to that if this does go up, which I do intend it does. But I think just having a moment in time, unedited, uncaptured, where we as humans give ourselves to the world honestly and purely in our mundane experience and in our extraordinary ordinariness or ordinary extraordinariness, then the world would be a much better place.